What the hell was that?
No.
Oh my goodness.
We have our windows open.
I don't know if the mics picked that up or not.
Oh, it was weird, but
We'll find out later.
we have our windows open because it's very hot and there's some cool air. I think we're getting the birds chirping.
It's got to be a bird like right outside the door chirping so loudly.
Yeah, the sounds of nature at the Homewrecker podcast.
Wow. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to the Homewrecker podcast. I am the Golden Greek Alex Arion, joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, gorgeous, amazing trophy wife, the lovely Monique.
Yes, who's not wearing makeup.
Oh.
Yes, I did it.
Congratulations.
I'm not wearing makeup. Thank you. I did it. I am on.
All right.
Out in the public to see with no makeup. So, yeah.
Wow. A milestone moment.
Yes. I'm reaching honey badger status. Do you remember the YouTube video? Honey badger don't give a shit.
I think it wasn't it Honey Badger don't give a fuck?
It might have been. I thought it was like everything.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, okay.
I'm reaching honey badger status. I'm getting there.
All right. That's what you were going for? Honey badger status?
No, I'm working on trying to not feel like I have to wear makeup all the time to be pretty. So.
No, that's great. That's good.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So I was going to say, way to start the opening of a podcast. What was that?
What was it?
We're looking at each other like,
what the hell was that?
And it probably didn't even get picked up. That's the best part. And here we are. Maybe
it did. Maybe it didn't. If you hear some loud, crazy sound, well, we don't know what it was either. So,
all right.
On that note,
moving on.
Well, so I guess it's kind of fitting starting in more of a I guess like a lighthearted kind of way, since the topic we're going to be covering today is
fun and lighthearted,
because it's not real.
We know it's fake.
We're taking apart a fictional show.
Yes.
that is a fun show.
Mm-hmm.
It's a funny show, at least for us and for a lot of people. I think it's a very popular show.
Yeah.
Talking about The Office. Yes. And we're going to be talking about the Scranton Strangler. And who was the Scranton Strangler?
Yes.
Because this is it's kind of a fun topic.
It is. So I didn't even know the theory of who the Scranton Strangler was until you told me, Alex.
Well, I don't even remember how it came up or how I found it, but I'm obviously we're both big Office fans, but I think I am a little bit more than you, maybe just because I don't know if
you were watching it longer than I was.
Yeah, I started watching it when it first came out. I saw the British version of The Office, and then when I found out they were doing the American version, I had missed the first season, but bought it on DVD before the second season came out because I was like, oh, they did it in the US too. They did a US version, so I would check this out. So I bought the DVD and checked it out and then started watching it when it began in season 2. And this was back in 2006, I believe, is when season 2 started, but the DVD and the first season was 2005. So anyway, I've been watching it since pretty much the get-go. And there's like Office podcasts now.
That you listen to.
Books. Oh yeah. I've checked it all out. I've been a huge fan all along. And I'm not one of those people that counts how many times I've gone through and watched the show, but it's been a lot. That's all I'm going to say. It's been a lot because that's like the only show that we really watch consistently all the time now.
Yeah. Like Psych, we go in cycles. We'll watch that for like a season or two, and then we'll do Office, but we've been just doing that more and more lately.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's just a fun show. And it's one of those shows that even the kids, they enjoy it. Like our oldest son, he watches it all the time and enjoys it. And then our 2 other sons, our youngest loves it. He's 4 now and he loves the show. He's always asking for Office. They don't know what's going on, I'm sure, but they enjoy it.
Yeah.
They just see
silliness.
I guess. Yeah.
They hear us laughing.
Yeah. So they must enjoy it. I don't know if it's the theme music that kind of sets the mood or what, but Yeah, it's just a fun show, and we talked about it last week a little bit at the end when we were teasing what we were going to be talking about today, and it's now more popular and it's more watched now than it was when it was actually on TV because of Netflix and all the streaming services. Now it's on Peacock, and yeah, it's found a whole new audience of people that weren't watching it when it was on TV, but have discovered it now, and they all love it. It's a good show.
Yeah. And
So-
if you aren't familiar with The Office, I'll try to do my best to explain some stuff so you can at least follow along.
Yeah.
So why don't you first get into like where you came across the theory of who the Scranton Strangler was?
Okay, well, the Scranton Strangler, I think it appeared first in season 6, right?
Yeah. So the Scranton Strangler is a character we don't see.
The Office takes place in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Yes.
So we should probably mention that if you don't already know. And yeah,
there's like a side, in the background story of the Scranton Strangler.
Yes.
That pops up throughout this series starting in season 6.
Right. There you go. Yeah. So it's just, and I have yet to see anything about whether or not the theory that, like, I guess it was just a bunch of fans discovered or came up with this theory. And I don't know if it's something that was meant to be discovered, if it's something the writers had in mind or not. They haven't really come out and said it or admitted to it yet. But we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
So
but
how
anyway,
you found out?
How I found out was I just happened to see, I don't know if it was on Reddit or Twitter or somehow it came to my attention. I went, what? And then I just started looking and I just started going down rabbit holes and I went on a couple of different Office forums, and yeah, I think there's a couple of Reddit threads about it. And the theory is that the Scranton Strangler was a member of the Office, the HR rep, Toby Flenderson.
Yes.
And I went, what? And then as soon as I read that, I went, it just kind of all clicked, because everything in the show, once I saw that theory, I went, oh my God, it is him. It's got to be him.
Once you watch the series with that in mind, you kind of start putting it together.
You start putting it together, yeah.
And we're going to talk about some other theories about other people from the Office who some people think could be the Scranton Strangler. But right now, I want to focus on Toby Flenderson and who Toby is. Do you want me to kind of get into that? So Toby is the HR rep. He's very quiet. He seems shy. He has a crush on Pam, the receptionist.
He kind of mumbles a little bit when he talks.
Kind of like mutters. He kind of talks into himself like this a bit, like very not confident. He lacks confidence. He seems like a really nice guy who's probably a doormat. Yeah. We learn throughout the series that he's divorced.
He's divorced. He has a daughter.
And he has a daughter. We learn that he has a crush on Pam,
who is the receptionist.
Yes. And also, I'm trying to think of a few other little tidbits.
Before he got an HR, he was in
a seminary for a year. Yes. And he left to get with his wife, who later divorced him and left him, and then remarried.
Yeah.
And he does self-defense, because there's an episode where Andy, one of the salesmen, or he might be the manager at that point, gets beat up by a little girl.
Yes.
And he defends himself. And during that episode, actually, we learned that Toby was beaten by his wife, because he made a comment, and I'm trying to remember it, but it was kind of like about like getting beat up by a girl, like it happens. And he's like, yeah, my ex-wife used to wail on me or demolish me or something like that. And again, it's one of those, like,
it's like a throwaway line.
It's like under the scope that if you're not paying attention, and that's the thing with Toby, this character, you need to pay attention, because it's so easy to miss the little things that happen and come up that he says, and we'll talk about some of that.
Yeah. And it's like with Toby, a lot of times I actually will turn on the captions, because I can't make out what he's saying, or it's really low. And a lot of times, we have small children, so there's a lot of background noise. But sometimes I'll rewind and I'll turn on the captions to see what he says, because it's kind of hard to make out, because like I said, he kind of mumbles, he talks really low and soft. And so that's where I saw a couple of things he said. I'm, oh, that's what he said.
Yeah.
What? And it just kind of like, oh, okay. So,
Is there anything else about Toby before we get into some of the other characters?
To get real, the actor who plays Toby is Paul Lieberstein, and he's actually one of the writers, and he was the showrunner for several years as well. He's directed a number of episodes, so he's been an integral part of the production of the show, not just acting, but the overall, storylines and everything like that. Like he helped craft a number of them. So that's all.
Okay. But I just want to talk a little bit about the dynamic about Toby, just so you can get a background about his personality with these other characters of the show. So Michael Scott is, the boss in the office, if you don't really watch it, if you're not familiar, and played by Steve Carell. And Michael Scott hates Toby. He hates HR. Toby is the bane of Michael's existence. Toby makes life miserable, and Michael Scott has no problem sharing that feeling with Toby and everybody else. He makes comments like, oh, you're the worst. And again, some comments that we're going to talk about going into everything. But Toby, again, he seems really nice and really just caring and sweet. And Michael just like beats on him and bags on him. It just is awful to him.
I'm smiling and laughing because it's so over the top, ridiculously awful that it's funny because
it's so unrealistic.
It's so unrealistic. Like nobody would ever talk to anybody like that in real life ever. But it's just but I think it's so undeserved and it's so over the top that it's just like, okay, it's funny. It's supposed to be funny.
It just shows that character more in a sense, like how weak he is, that you think or nice, but kind of like doormat. Right. That he doesn't really say anything. He doesn't really speak up. And when he does, it's very like muttering under his breath. And that kind of gives the signs of like, okay, this kind of makes sense. And we'll get into that. Then we mentioned Pam, the receptionist. Pam's character, played by Jenna Fisher, she was engaged to a guy from the warehouse for a while. Jim, a salesman, professed his love to her, and eventually, again, spoilers, but they get together.
Yeah, that's like that's the long storyline through the office, is the romance of
Pam and Jim. Yes. And Pam is really like sweet. Toby likes her, and there are these little things where like Pam, what was it when Ryan started the fire? And
there's always little throwaway comments. Yeah. Where Pam's like, oh, Toby's kind of cute.
Yeah. Like, oh, Toby's kind of cute. Yeah. Sure. And she makes that comment.
And when he leaves that one time, because he leaves to go to Costa Rica or something, I might have the episodes mixed up, but she says, I always thought Toby was kind of cute.
Yeah. Oh, I always kind of had a crush on him or something like that.
Yeah.
Like beach day.
There's always these little things.
Yeah. Beach day. And Michael says Toby can't go to the beach day, and he gives Pam his sunscreen. She goes, oh, that's great because I have a two-piece. And poor Toby's just like miserable. This girl that he has a crush on is going to be at the beach in a two-piece, and he's not going to be able to see it.
So anyhow.
So there's that dynamic where he has a thing for Pam, and she seems totally oblivious to it. No idea. Yeah. And then there's Jim, and it seems like Toby and Jim get along fine until he starts dating Pam and their relationship moves forward.
Well, I don't think it's Jim that has a problem with Toby.
No.
It's Toby all of a sudden now starts kind of having an issue with Jim.
I think there was like an episode or two where Jim's in charge and he kind of snaps at Toby, and it's more because he's frustrated, not because like he's embracing Michael Scott's attitude.
Right.
Toby has the knack to just kind of be at the wrong place at the wrong time and say the wrong thing. And again, that just goes to his character, that here's this guy who you think is just trying to be nice and helpful and want to inject himself in conversation and be a part of the group, but he's so awkward that it just makes everything worse.
Yes.
Any other office members that really, I mean, there's Dwight, but I don't know if it really plays into.
I mean, there's just seeing what a nice guy Toby is, especially early on when Dwight first gets some sex ed, has some sex questions, and he goes to Toby with them, and Toby actually sits patiently and tries to explain to him.
It's like he really wants to help people.
Yes,
that is his goal. He wants to help people. He got into human resources because probably the job was there, but he really just wants to help people. So let's go through why the theories why he's the
Scranton Strangler. Yeah. So the Scranton Strangler you have in your notes here was first mentioned in season 6.
Episode 18, The Delivery.
That was the first time they mentioned it, huh?
Yes. I thought it was before then, and I looked back. So that's when Cece Halpert is born. So
Pam and Jim have a child.
Yeah. So it's a 2-part. And she goes into labor, and they're all rushing because like she was like having contractions like 2 minutes apart. And then what is it like? It's the next day. They don't have the baby until. So Andy got the newspaper of the day he thought she was going to be born framed, and it's like spring has sprung or something really cute. And he's like, yeah, now I got to change it out. And he puts the paper, and it says the Scranton Strangler strikes again.
So that's the first mention of the Scranton Strangler.
Yes. And there's theory there that.
Well, okay. So that's the first mention. And then he gets mentioned a few other times throughout the season, right? So the theory is that apparently Toby had, or if it's Toby, the Strangler had started strangling people because obviously he'd done it prior to this because the newspaper reads the Scranton Strangler strikes again. So the theory is that he kind of loses it and has to go out and kill again because
the woman he loves or cares about just had a baby with somebody else.
Exactly.
And it makes you wonder, well, because there's some issues. Let's rewind a little bit about Toby, because when Jim and Pam get married, he, was like,
he won't go into the church.
Well, he won't go into to the church, but that was explained when he talked about when he was in the seminary and him and God don't quite have that relationship. So people use that as a reason, like, well, if he's guilty, he, has a guilty mind, he can't connect with God.
Yeah.
But they already explained it, and I don't know how that got missed. That he was in the seminary.
I don't know, but it also fits again for the whole him not wanting to go to church, because now he's gone so far the other way where he's actually started to take lives, which if you're religious and you're into the Bible and the 10 Commandments, one of the first commandments is thou shalt not kill.
But so when Jim and Pam get married, he goes to the wedding and they're late, and he kind of smirks. He's happy and, makes a comment like, oh yeah, someone so called it wasn't going to last. And then they walk right through, and he's like,
that's not, that was
what? No, what were you saying?
That's not
what he said.
You're mixing up the line.
Okay. Yes. Well, anyway, he commented about them not lasting, and he was happy about it.
Yeah.
And then they walk through, and he is disappointed.
Sure.
So one could wonder, maybe that's like they went through, they got married. Maybe that's when he first started. And there's theory thrown out there and speculation that because of the way he's treated by everyone, he snaps. And it's just one thing on top of another that causes him to snap.
Yes. And that's why, if this is the writers actually wrote it for Toby to be the Scranton Strangler, if that was their fucking genius, because it all makes sense. It all lines up perfectly. Like I said, they have not admitted it yet. And it was never something that was put out there until these fans kind of came up with the theory and put it all together. So yeah, it was kind of genius, because again, he is just like piled on so much by Michael, and then a couple other instances, like you mentioned, from other random people who just they pile on him. He gets divorced. His wife used to beat him up.
And they tease him about it, about being divorced.
Well, Michael teases him about being divorced mostly, but he just gets piled on, and then he falls for Pam, and she is single for a little while, but nothing happens. And then she gets with Jim, and then he's like, oh, I lose loses his chance again. So it's one of those things where you can see that just over and over and over, and just getting piled on, getting frustrated. you can see he gets pushed to a limit.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is the actual, if that's what's going on, if he really is the Scranton Strangler, it kind of makes sense where, right,
Mm-hmm.
where he would get pushed to that.
Now, the next moment where the Scranton Strangler makes a big appearance is in season 7, is it? Season 7, episode 7, viewing party. That's the one where they have a Glee viewing party at Gabe's house with Erin,
right,
the new receptionist. And in the very beginning, the cold open, they're all sitting at a computer monitor watching the news, but they're at Toby's desk.
Yeah, the entire office is hovered around Toby's desk. They're watching the news and they're seeing that the
Scranton Strangler
has been his home has been surrounded, or
wherever
he's been cornered in a house.
Yeah, he barricaded himself or something.
Yeah, they don't say who it is or anything like that, and then
they show a car chase.
They show a car chase starts, kind of like, reminiscent of the OJ Bronco, but it wasn't a Bronco. But anyway, something along those lines. And the whole officer runs out.
Because they're like, Michael's like, that's our street. That's our street.
So they run out and they go to the conference room. They look out the window and they see the car drive by and everything.
The cruiser's driving by.
The only cast member that's not there, the only office member that's not there is Toby. Mm-hmm. Where's Toby?
Now, so there's a couple things about that. So Toby's missing.
Yeah.
One of the car that goes by, people are saying that's Toby's car. Now, it's been said that they just use, there's cars that are always parked off for the set, and they just used one of the cars because it was there.
But it was, you definitely know it was not Pam or Jim's car. It wasn't Michael's car. It wasn't Creed's car. It wasn't Creed. It wasn't Meredith's van. Mm-hmm. So all the folks whose vehicle, it wasn't Dwight's car. All these people whose cars for sure because they pointed it out at some point or another up until that point in the series. Mm-hmm. It is a car that was in the parking lot. Yeah.
And I think
but they never say who, and they never really point that out in the show.
Though, when you see people leaving, if we see Toby getting in the car, I'll have to pay more attention.
We'll have to pay more attention, but it may be something that's kind of like.
But it's speculated that it's Toby's car. Now, another thing is when they're watching with the standoff, Toby's phone rings and Kelly just picks it up and hangs it up, and speculated that, well, if somebody's calling the office, the line would go to Pam at the front desk and she transfers everybody. Right. So they would have to have that direct extension. Right. So who would have that number? Who would be calling? And it's speculated. People have said they think it's Toby calling because he's cornered and he wants to confess or say something and he just gets hung up on.
So he's calling him
the line for somebody to pick up, which
he's calling his own desk line. That doesn't really make any sense.
Yes. So maybe he called the front desk and nobody answered and he tried different extensions. I don't know. That to me is a little iffy because, well, yeah, I get it. He knows his own extension, but if he's not there, who's to say anyone would answer?
Or he was maybe calling to confess into his voicemail, perhaps.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, they were saying maybe he's calling to confess.
Who knows?
The other thing is at the viewing party, that whole episode, Toby's not there. Now, again, one could argue and say,
that's right.
He's not in the episode. And that's just why they have episodes where nobody's there. There's an episode where Jim, I believe, is in the cold open, but not in the rest of the episode, the New Year's resolution one. Yeah. Who's to say? I think it's a fun theory for that, but that one I feel is a little slightly more reaching, more of wishful hoping.
Okay. So what do you have next?
So season 7, episode 11, Classy Christmas. This is where Michael Scott becomes so happy because Toby announces he got jury duty.
He got chosen for jury duty.
Yes. And which means Holly Flax, Michael's girlfriend, can come back, or ex-girlfriend, because she filled in when Toby went to Costa Rica. So Toby can't say exactly what case he has. He says it's a high profile case and he's feeling around his neck, trying to pulling around his collar, and they guess the Scranton Strangler. And he's like, I can neither confirm nor deny this, but I'll be up to my neck in jury duty or something. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he's now on the jury. part of this is if he got caught, how could he be on the jury? So the theory is that he set somebody up when he was trying to escape and made like somebody else took the fall and he got away. And like the thought is he bribed somebody to get on the jury so he could be on the case and find this guy guilty.
Okay.
That's the line of thinking.
Yeah. Could be. Could very well be.
And go on.
No, go ahead.
And so season 7, episode 20, Michael's Last Dundies, where they give Toby a Dundee. What was it, like the repulsiveness award?
Repulsiveness award or something. Like
and it's like so demeaning
so
and
bad.
so horrible to Toby. And they're like, you got to go up, man. And so he's like,
it's Michael's Last Dundies. You got to play along, man. You got to play along.
And so he goes up and he's like, I actually want to use this as a platform to talk about my time on the jury for the Scranton Strangler. And I actually think he's innocent. And he's like, of course, everyone like kicks him off the stage. Michael shoves him off the stage. Nobody cares. But that's kind of like, oh, okay, now he was found guilty, but now you're thinking he's innocent. And the story develops more from there with Toby sharing his thoughts on how the Scranton Strangler, George Howard Scub, was set up. He was a patsy. He was framed. He didn't do it. But Toby was pressured to convict him, to say he
pressured to convict.
He
right?
was.
Or so he says.
Yes. So it's thought there, if Toby's the Scranton Strangler, then he knows the guy didn't do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I also look at it like, because he talks about it ad nauseum. People get so sick of hearing him talk about it. It's kind of like his shtick. Like he just starts talking and people, they don't care. But if I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes, if I were a serial killer.
This is a fictional show.
Yes.
Remember?
If I was the Scranton Strangler and I was Toby, this is something where people wanted to know. It piqued their interest when, he had the case. People were interested about the story, what happened. People are paying attention to him. So if that was me, I'd be like, I'm getting attention. So why wouldn't I use I think he's innocent to bring more people in and want to have them listen to me again? It obviously backfires if that's what he's thinking. But just kind of putting myself in those shoes, they might find me interesting and want to talk to me and hang out with me.
All right.
Yeah, that's just kind of how I was thinking if that was the case. Now,
we should talk about the Flenderson Files.
Oh, yes, the Flenderson Files.
You can't leave the Flenderson Files out.
No.
Because Toby is also an aspiring detective novelist.
Yes. Yes. And he writes a series of novels called the Flenderson Files, where there's a detective who solves crimes and different things come up. So there's an episode where Joe Bennett, the owner of Sabre, who buys out Dunder Mifflin, is sitting down there looking at computers to find out who was a whistleblower on a printer catching fire. And they're going through computers. And she says to Toby, I know you didn't do it, but we found this on your computer. And she pulls out the novel printed. And she's like, it's actually saying it's pretty good, but she wants to know, why would somebody who doesn't like being around people, what was it, be with the maid or
be with the maid,
or
lines, yeah.
Hang out with the maid or pay attention to her? She goes, now I'm thinking it's one of two things. Either he knows something about her that she doesn't, or he wants to use her to clean up something afterwards for her cleaning services. Yeah. And
so
Toby kind of
cleaning services.
Yeah. And Toby
clean up the blood.
Yeah. And Toby kind of
he smirks. He's like, yes.
And then they show him when he's back at his desk, write your own damn novel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, it's these little cracks of things coming out. In season 5, did I write down episode 10? I think that was the one where Toby's talking, might have been the radon, and they're talking about asbestos and things like that. He goes,
he's putting the little radon. Wait, is that the same?
I'm not sure if it's that, or it might have been when the surplus. And I think it was the surplus,
right,
where he's like, we can get rid of
asbestos.
We can get rid of the asbestos
because we haven't had the air checked, we haven't had the ceilings checked for asbestos. It's the silent killer. And Michael says to him,
"You're the silent killer."
And Toby mutters under his breath, "You'll see."
He mutters, "You'll see." Now, one could say he's saying, "You'll see," like if we all get sick and die from asbestos. You could very easily put it that way. But if you're looking at it like he is the Scranton Strangler, you could say, "Oh, yes."
Mm-hmm.
Because this is before we know of the Scranton Strangler, because this was season 5.
Sure.
There was something else I wanted to bring up about Toby and these little things coming out, because again, he seems so nice. But then I can't remember the episode, but I know there was at least one episode where he tries to throw Jim under the bus. And we watched it not too long ago. And I'm thinking, why is he trying to get Jim in trouble? Like, and then I remembered, oh yeah, because Jim is with Pam and he wants to get rid of him. So again, it's just these cracks of like, he's kind of a dick when he wants to be.
He has the capability.
He has it. Yes.
It's in him.
Yes, it is. Now, season 9, episode 19, Starmageddon. During this point, Jim and Pam are having some issues, and he sits down and talks to Toby about. Jim sits down and talks to Toby and about his divorce and marriage counseling.
Right. They're going to start marriage counseling. So he wants to talk to Toby about marriage counseling. And this is when he says, Kelly called it. 2013. Kelly called it. Like, as in meaning Kelly called Jim and Pam were only going to make it to 2013 and then they're going to be done, essentially.
So I feel like Toby actually, he's like, "Oh no, like, are you guys in counseling?" And he seems legitimately like, okay, he's coming to me. I want to help him.
He actually does seem legitimately concerned.
Yeah, like he wants to help.
And then
Clark walks in and he's like, out. You're like kicking him out.
Kicking him out like a dick. Like, you never really see this side of Toby.
I was like, when somebody's like pissed at their dog for like getting in the way. He's like, no, get out. Like, won't even let the guy talk. And he's like, "I'm sorry." He goes, "You're right." And he like under his breath, again, under the breath muttering, he's like, "I'm going to kill him."
Yeah.
"I'm going to kill him."
Yeah. And that's when I didn't know what he said, because I couldn't make it out, and I put the captions on and got it. And then I went, "Oh, that's what he's saying." And then I turned it up really loud and went, "Oh yeah, that's what he's saying." Yes.
Now, also in season 9, we mentioned all he does is talk about George Howard Scub and how he thinks he's innocent.
Right.
So there's a character that comes along towards the end of the series, Nellie, and he becomes interested in her. So he's moved on, which might be why he's more interested in helping Jim, because he's moved on to liking Nellie.
Okay.
And Nellie made the mistake during the Christmas party of like, who's the Scranton Strangler? Like, what's going on with this? And so again, somebody to listen to him. And again, this is somebody who he likes too. So,
well, you left out the part. He likes her because for Halloween, she dressed up as him.
Yeah.
She dressed up as Toby.
Which I was like, I'm confused, because there's a part where she takes off the wig at the end and she has red hair and her hair comes down, and he has like flowers for her and he watches her move the wig. And this is something else to mention. And then he kind of like, because he's in the little kitchen area between the office and the annex, and he kind of turns around, he starts smashing the flowers, like, and he's all pissed and everything. And I'm just like,
I don't know why.
I don't know.
It's I don't weird, but it's a small glimpse of him like
snapping.
Yeah. Just like nuts, like goes nuts.
Like he's weirdly nuts. Yeah.
Like over the top, like maniacal, crazy, like violent nuts.
Yeah. It was very weird.
It was brief. It was like 3 seconds. Him just smashing flowers.
And I had said to Alex, like, I guess I'm just confused. I don't know why the wig coming off, the only thing I can think of is maybe he sees like it's not real. She really like, maybe he realizes she's making fun of him. Maybe, I don't know what it is. But so there's a part where all he does is talk about the Scranton Strangler, and Nellie wants to go. I think was it during the Christmas party? Yes. And so she's like, shh, shh, no. And she's like trying to get him to stop.
She's
and
trying
like,
to get him to shut up because he's just been blabbing
so
for
he
hours.
Kisses her.
Well, no, he says to her, "Are you gonna kiss me?"
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And she goes, "Yes."
Because she just wants him to shut up.
Wants him to shut the fuck up.
And he kisses her.
And so he kisses her. Yeah.
And from there, he thinks he's in a relationship with her. Again, delusional.
He thinks there's something going on. And they're really,
because like a few episodes down, he's like, well, some people don't have what we have. And he puts like his hand, like rubs his hand on her hand. And she's like, what the fuck is he talking about?
What? Yeah.
Yeah. Like what? Yeah. Uh-huh. And then she's like, oh yeah. Like she remembers.
She remembers that they kissed.
Yeah. Yes. So in season 9, Toby, like, he's like talking about George Howard Scub, how he thinks he's innocent again. And Nellie gets so sick of it. And she's like, I'm sick of hearing about the bloody Scranton Strangler. And she's like, all like, just do something. I know my horrible English accent.
It's no better than mine. Anyway. So she's like, just go already. Like, she's like, what, are you going to wait another year to lick the stamp and mail it out? She's, again, busting his balls, but for good reason, because all he does is talk about it and there's no action. So he's like, okay, I'm going to do it. So he decides to go to the jail, go to prison, and meet with George Howard Scub and tell him that I was on the jury and I said you were guilty, but I think you're innocent. Yeah.
And he is to the camera saying, he, again, delusional, I think this is going to be a good friendship. And I wonder with that, if he was the Scranton Strangler, is this an act to just make him seem more innocent? Or is it, again, being so delusional?
I think it's delusion.
Being so delusional that you're the murderer. You kill people in this fictional setting, but you kill people and you set up a guy to take the fall for you. You convict him, you get him convicted, and now you want to be his friend. And I don't know, is it a savior complex of, I want to be this guy's savior. I want him to look at me like, you do think I'm innocent and you'll help me. And again, you could say it's that loneliness. He's so lonely. He has no connections, that he's just super delusional, thinking this might be how I can do it.
Could be.
Yep. And of course, for those who watched it, Nellie has to go pick him up because you see him getting wheeled
out of the prison on a gurney.
Yep.
Because apparently George Howard Scub
strangled him. The proof is in the grip.
Yes. And he can't talk. I guess his throat got bruised real bad or whatever. Yeah. He can't talk for like 2 weeks or something. So you're led to believe that, oh, well, okay, I guess that he really was the Scranton Strangler because he just tried to strangle Toby. But
one could argue, if somebody set you up for multiple murders and you're in prison rotting and they said that you were guilty knowing you weren't, like if he said, even if he's like, I guess you could look at it 2 ways. One, he says like, oh, I was on the jury. Still, you'd be pissed. But 2, if he said, I'm the Scranton Strangler.
If he's crazy enough and delusional enough, he goes in and he says, I know you're innocent. You know how I know you're innocent? Because it's me. I'm the one that's a Scranton. And then this fucking guy who's in there wrongfully convicted now is like, fuck motherfucker, I'm gonna kill you. Yeah. It makes sense that way too. Yeah. So once again, the brilliance of the writing on this show, because you could argue, either way. And the things that Toby says are so vague, but they fit for him being the Strangler, or just as him a throwaway line that just anybody would say in his position. That's the brilliance of the writing on this show. So I just had to mention that.
Now, there have been thoughts where people have said it's really Creed.
Yes.
And the reason why, and I get that line of thinking, but I don't think so, because I think Creed is one too obvious. But also, we've seen what car Creed drives. That wasn't the car being driven.
It's a Cadillac that he drives.
It's like a maroon Cadillac or Lincoln or something. It's like an older car.
But Creed's kind of a shady character. You see early on in a bar where a bunch of young kids come and say, "Hey, Creed," because he sells them fake IDs. There's
a Halloween episode where he comes in, he has blood splatter on his shirt, and it's Halloween, and they're like, "Oh, nice costume." He's like, "Costume? Oh yeah,
costume.
Halloween, yeah."
And he's like, "I picked a perfect day to come in," or whatever he say, made some line, but essentially hinting that or saying that the blood on his shirt's actually not Halloween blood. It's actually real blood.
Yeah.
That he just did something.
Throughout the series, we know he's like, he sells when Dunder Mifflin gets bought out. He starts selling everything.
Yeah, he starts.
And he's like taking the money. We know he's already kind of shady.
He doesn't even
remember what he does there.
Creed is not his real name.
And that's not, like
he says it. He says what I forget what his name is in the show, or like his real name is in the show, but everybody thinks his name is Creed because he says that. Oh, I can't remember the line now. I've watched the show so many times I can't remember the line. But essentially, he's like, who else, whatever, something or other. He's like, or something like, who knows the real something or other? Creed Bratton. Like,
I know what you're referring to.
I can't remember the exact line, but essentially saying that the real Creed Bratton is dead and he has assumed the identity of Creed Bratton.
And even in the finale, like they discover he's wanted by the FBI.
Yeah.
But I don't like, his character doesn't come off as the stranglery type. That's just my 2 cents. I like Creed.
Maybe he is. Maybe he's. Who knows? But
that's the other theory. I think Toby is better fitting.
I think it fits better as Toby as well.
It's just funner.
I agree. Yeah.
Now, and somebody else, like I've seen comments about maybe Gabe.
I don't like Gabe for the Strangler. I don't think so.
Yeah.
He's weird. He's definitely weird. The character is definitely weird, but
he seems more pathetic than like snappy.
I don't like him for the Strangler.
Yeah.
I could see him being like a rapist or something like that, but I don't see him as the Strangler.
That. Yeah.
I don't know. Listen to us.
These
somebody's just
turning
the show on now. Like,
I could see him as a rapist.
Yeah. Did
fictional characters? Yes.
The usual serious stuff that we talk about on this show.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is just definitely a departure from what we normally talk about here.
But we like to do this kind of stuff.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
fun. You have to have fun.
Absolutely.
You have to be silly. You just have to enjoy everything.
Of course.
I just wanted to mention as well the season finale of the series finale.
Yes.
Toby. So again, everyone's coming together for the reunion and for Dwight's wedding. And we see Toby at the airport and he sees Nellie, and we learn that obviously there was a little bit of possible stalking issues. She's like, what was it like? Something about like social media, Twitter, Facebook, and he commented like, well, you can't stop people from seeing your tweets or something like that. Again, it's just like a boundary kind of thing, like leave me alone. And it's like, well, technically I can still, it's public, so I can see it.
Yeah.
And then he talks about his roommates. He moves to New York to be a novelist.
Yeah.
And he has 6 roommates?
I think so.
And he makes a comment like, well, the good thing about roommates is if they want to leave you, they have to give 30 days notice.
Yeah.
Again, how sad and lonely is he that he basically, in order to get people to be near him, he has to have some kind of arrangement, like a living arrangement of roommates. And it just reminded me, Phyllis's wedding, he shows up with like a really pretty woman.
Yeah.
And was it Kevin hints that she's a paid escort?
Right.
And he's like, oh, I met her at the gym.
I met her at the gym. Yeah.
But it's just interesting because now looking back, it would seem more likely that she was paid.
Could be, because she was definitely a looker.
Yeah.
She was real attractive.
And I wondered too, I was like, is it just trying to dig at Toby when he actually can get a girl. But if you keep watching, it doesn't seem that way and it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
So then kind of going through the entire season, having watched as many times as we have, it makes you think like, I could see her being a lady of the evening.
And Kevin would know because he's a big time gambler. He's
Mhm.
into the nightlife and clubs and yeah, I think it hints that he maybe knows some people in the mob and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, so it definitely is hinted at for sure. So it could very well be. Absolutely. Now I know that after NBC did like I can't remember. I think it was like a web series or something. They did like a kind of like After the Office kind of thing, and it showed that Toby became like another HR manager.
Wasn't it like TJ Maxx?
TJ Maxx, yeah, yeah. So that's what ends up happening after the show in storyline to the character. So he never got caught if he was the Strangler. Now, so do you think for sure that you like Toby as the Scranton Strangler?
I love Toby as the Scranton Strangler. I love it.
I think so too. And funny enough, and I'll link this in the show notes too, so anybody that maybe has not seen it can check it out. The Office has a YouTube channel. So I don't know who runs it exactly, but it's the official channel of the show. They have a YouTube channel. They put clips and things like that on there. I think it was 2018 or 2019. They did a spoof of the Netflix series Making a Murder. Is that what it was called?
We don't have Netflix. I don't know.
I'm not sure, but it was called Making the Strangler, I think,
Making a Strangler,
something like that. And it was done in the vein of that Making a Murder show Netflix. And it's all the clips of Toby, a lot of the clips that we talked about, and then some, all kind of put together in sequence, basically telling you, yeah, he's the Scranton Strangler. So I don't know if The Office, they must have seen these fan theories online or whatever.
If they just took it and ran with it, or if they're like,
or if they were like, oh, somebody actually figured it out. Let's tell them that's what it is. Now they never actually come out and say it at all, but it's kind of obvious at that point that, okay, they just edited all these clips together. They're showing you, here it is. Here's the progression of the character. And then obviously they're telling you, I mean, yeah, that's gotta be it.
Now there have been talks about a reunion show.
They've been talking about a reunion show for years.
And Peacock had something where it showed like clips that look like they filmed something, but it's really confusing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, honestly. I think I've heard, like I've talked to these people or something, but through different articles I've read, podcasts, all those two, that kind of thing. All the cast members are on board. So it's not like you have like one or two that are like, I'm all set. They all loved working on the show.
So what are they waiting for?
And yeah. And for one reason or another, they just haven't put it together yet. But I think that we're probably going to see an Office reunion. Now, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know that I want to see the Office reunion. I don't know that I want to see. I don't know. Because there's talk that they're going to do another series. I don't know if I want to see that. Maybe a one-off kind of like special would be all right. If they did like a 1 or 2 hour,
maybe like reunion show, an episode, I think that'd be fun.
That show ended so perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Just the very last episode was so perfect, tied together. Everything was so well done. You had Steve Carell come back for a cameo and everything. I thought it was done so perfectly. I personally, the artist in me wouldn't want to mess with that.
Well, all I'm saying is if they did that, I think it would be so funny if they have Toby in prison, because while he was working at TJ Maxx, he got busted strangling somebody else.
Imagine. That would be funny.
Then it turns out he really was the Scranton Strangler.
That would be something.
That would be fabulous.
That would be something. So yeah, I don't know if they're going to do it or not. I'm guessing they probably will, because there's probably just too much money involved in that. Because again, just with how big the show has become since it went off the air, But I personally, I don't know if I'll watch it when it comes out, of course. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm not really too psyched about it. That's just me.
Well, we'll see if it even happens. We're not going to worry about it till then.
No,
is there anything else you want to mention about?
No, just I think that it was just kind of a cool little thing. When I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh.
I was like, we need to talk about this. It makes
sense.
Yes. And again, like we watched probably the whole series twice around, trying to pick up on
just trying to pick up on things related to this.
And all I knew when I was watching it was you said Toby, it's believed, is the Scranton Strangler.
Yeah,
I didn't read anything. You texted it to me.
Yeah, I was like, you're never gonna guess.
But I didn't read any articles. I didn't watch anything. I didn't hear anything. So like a lot of the stuff was me just watching. Yeah. And then after, that's when I started looking and seeing what other people said. Well,
like I said earlier, when I first saw all I saw was like the heading on, I think it was Reddit. The Scranton Strangler is ... and then you go and it's Toby. And as soon as I saw that, I went, it like a light bulb went off, and like all the different things just kind of clicked. I went, oh yeah, of course it is. And then I started looking at a couple of things. I just kind of scrolling. I'm like, yep, that's right. Yep. Yep. Perfect.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But it just like, once I saw it, it just clicked like, oh yeah, it's gotta be him.
Another episode that I would love to talk to is, I want to talk about like Jim, because everyone, not now, but I'm saying another time, like another episode, because I want to talk just like about Jim, because the more you watch it, at least for me personally,
he becomes unlikable.
He does. And I'm like, he's a dick.
He becomes unlikable.
Yeah. This character everybody loves. And after watching the series so many times, I'm just like, Jim's a dick.
It's weird. It's like now, the more I watch,
he's a selfish prick.
Yeah. Well, we'll just leave it at that. We'll
leave it at that. We'll talk about another episode down the road.
And of course, people are going to listen to that. I want to be like, what's wrong with these people? How can they not like Jim?
Oh, well, you'll have to tune in for that episode.
Jim's not all bad. He's not all, but there are,
We'll talk about it another episode. It'll probably be like 8 months down the road.
Yeah, and we got to talk about how Michael Scott is really a genius.
Yes, he is.
That's my theory. That Michael Scott is secretly a genius who's working everybody.
We could do that in one episode.
Geez, we should just do another Office podcast. In addition to the Homewrecker pod, we'll do one just on The Office.
You've watched it enough?
Oh, geez. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So hopefully everybody enjoyed this little fun, I guess.
Yeah.
A break,
hope you had fun.
A break from seriousness.
Yeah.
And just us diving into a fictional show.
Well,
and
for
just
those
having some fun.
Who've been listening for a long time, it's like, we like to have fun. We like to do serious things and things that make you think, but we also like to have fun and be silly, and just because that's life. Life is just about like taking the good from everything and what makes you happy and what makes you feel good, regardless of if you think it's a psyop or if it's all fake. Like, you still have to be able to enjoy life.
Which it all is.
So who cares? Just take what you like and enjoy it. We like The Office, and we know a lot of people do too. So
yeah. And if you don't, that's cool too.
That's okay. Hopefully you still enjoy the episode if you're still listening or watching.
Yeah. So yeah, this was fun.
Yes.
Now, anything else you want to talk about? Anything not related to The Office? We usually talk about that at the beginning of the show, but
no, we kind of jumped right in there. Hot and fast.
Right in,
I liked it. Yeah, let's close it on this good note. Let's just have it about Toby. I'll throw in there.
We'll close on this good note about Toby, who's a serial killer.
I just got the Goodbye Toby song by the Supertramp.
Yeah, good stuff.
Version of Goodbye Toby. I just want to throw it out there. You can find me at tarotbymonique.com. I have an Etsy shop, Wonders by Monique. I am on Twitter at _Monique Giselle _, and that's Giselle with 1 L. And where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at the Alex Arion. You can also check out alexarionfitness.com. And for us, the podcast, we are on Twitter
at Homewrecker Pod.
And we have a website,
homewreckerpodcast.com.
And as always, hit that Not subscribe, the follow button, or subscribe,
Whatever's there.
if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And if you got a minute or two and you don't mind leaving a nice 5-star review.
Yes, some people left some. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. It helps build the audience, give us more visibility, that kind of thing. So we appreciate it very much. And of course, subscribe, follow, like
YouTube,
videos,
Brighteon, and Odyssey.
There you go. We're talking over each other there, but it happens. It's okay.
Does. And I just want to send love to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, with time being everybody's most valuable currency, we appreciate everybody that spends their time with us each and every week.
We do.
Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. So until next time, what are you smiling at?
No, just thinking about that people share their time with us.
Yeah,
and
it's really cool.
And I love that. And I love the connections that we form, and it's just nice.
Absolutely. So once again, thank you to everybody. And until next time, I am the Golden Greek, Alex Arion, joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, gorgeous, not wearing any makeup, and looking better than ever.
And people are like, she looks exactly the same. I see a difference.
My trophy wife, the lovely Monique.
And you've been listening to the Homewrecker podcast.